Yo guys, it is your boy. Yeah, now we're gonna have to call that one off, I'm afraid. Yeah, that's off. That chair, leaning fam, in an offside position, is squeaking and everything. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, would be an example of a good VAR decision. Unfortunately, we don't seem to get many of those. Once again, it has been another season full of controversy and confusion when it comes to officiating and refereeing decisions. Whether it be in the Premier League or on the continental stage, there have been yet more VAR disasters. Through the 24-25 season, here's every single one of them. I know I said my chair was offside in the intro. That might be like a handball as well, a professional foul, perverting the course of justice. You name it, it's committed the crime. And here I am getting lower back pain and scoliosis on it. Please make sure to like this video to ease the pain. 7,000 likes, I will get corrective back surgery. And as I mentioned, when we get to 750k subscribers, I'll be testing out my other injury, being my knee. Real life football coming then and only then. Now I know Arsenal fans are rubbing their hands with glee at this one. They've been waiting to rip into the PGMOL all campaign. And realistically, it is the only place to start. There's been some real high profile decisions, ones that have been accepted by the PGMOL are being wrong, and some that haven't and raise further questions. And you know what? We'll start with the controversial one, why don't we? The one that hasn't been acknowledged and that happened so early in the season that it feels like P. Diddy was still attending secondary school. And not because he was a student there, he was just hanging around outside. What I'm suggesting is Declan Rice's red card or second yellow versus Brighton at the Emirates at the start of the season. Now this really kind of put the wheels in motion as to a frustrating PGMOL related season for Arsenal. Now a lot of them have complained the reason why they've lost the league or the reason why Liverpool have won the league is because of VAR decision making. And it's hard to disagree with them when it comes to a couple of the decisions in this one. The only other issue that stopped them winning the league has been Mikel Arteta deciding not to win football matches.
Terrorists.
Either way, we're talking about VAR, not Arsenal's performances, and this one was an absolute joke, kind of looking back retrospectively, only because of what's happened since. So Declan Rice is down by the corner flag, he's trying to, like, you know, delay the game a little bit and taps the ball away from Joel Veltman, who's about to take it quickly. Instead, Joel lamps him in the side of the shins, and if anything, you think that the Brighton defender's going to get himself a red card, only for the referee to brandish a second yellow to Declan and see him taking an early shower. Now, before the season started, there was definitely an emphasis on the fact that if you were seen to be kicking the ball away at all, even slightly, you would receive a yellow card. And whilst I don't particularly think that's something that needed to be implemented, like, really drastically, I don't think it's one of the main pressing issues of football today, I do think it is used by a lot of players to time waste drastically. So, in fairness, you know, could be seen as a positive. This doesn't particularly feel like an example of it that was really necessary, given the fact the ball traveled about 6 centimeters. And again, if we're looking at the incident from a screenshot, who do you think is getting sent off in this situation? Fucking the guy who volleyed the other Don. Are you sure you don't want to do a 50-50? And I think the main gripe for Arsenal fans is the fact there's been no consistency since then. For example, Dominic Szoboszlai lamping the ball away a couple of game weeks later and not receiving the same punishment. And sticking on the theme of Arsenal, perhaps one of the worst refereeing decisions I've seen in a while came when Michael Oliver sent off Miles Lewis-Skelly for what was basically a tactical foul against Wolves. Now, Arsenal did go on to win this game anyway, Wolves ending up down to 10 men as well, but universally this was seen as an absolutely ridiculous decision because, I mean, yes, it's cynical, but all yellow cards, breaking up the play, stopping a counter-attack fouls are cynical. If we were giving red cards for these, Fernandinho wouldn't have had a career. Rodri wouldn't have a career. Most DMs would be out of a job. So the fact that this was given as a red was absolutely disgraceful. It was rescinded in the end, and the PGMOL did accept that an error had been made. That error being giving Michael Oliver his license in the first place. And I might have given Liverpool the edge in the title race, but one that didn't give us any sort of positive decision was James Tarkowski's challenge on Alexis McAllister, which somehow wasn't given as a straight red instead. What are we doing here? How is Miles Lewis-Skelly getting a red card for that against Wolves, but this attempted murder from James Tarkowski on Alexis McAllister's shin bone isn't being given as anything? He got the ball first, yes, but it is obviously excessive force, especially given where James connects on McAllister's leg. People saying, oh, it was fine, they chatted at full time. They could have gone to pottery classes together after this one and it still would have been a red card. Another foul that definitely should have seen red in the Premier League was Lisandro Martinez turning into a praying mantis when trying to tackle Crystal Palace midfielder. Why are we Jackie Channing his ankle off? The ball's on the ground. Why would you jump in for a tackle like this? By the simple letter and laws of the game, this is a red card because you are diving in, you're jumping off the ground to make a tackle. Now, apparently the reason is because he didn't connect with the player. I don't care for all that personally. This is endangering a species, let alone endangering just one footballer. All I know is that he's going to get toe punted across across the room when he tries this with Erling Haaland next season, because he is known for this move. Manchester United can find themselves a little bit hard done by, though, not receiving a penalty when Rasmus Højlund was bundled to the ground by Ruben Diaz in a Manchester derby earlier on in the season. I mean, again, just seems so obvious to me. Mike Dean was quoted as saying that you don't give that sort of penalty in a game such as this, referring to the overall gravitas of a derby, the importance of the game being a reason to change the entire rules completely. I mean, if that doesn't suggest the state of officiating and what they know to do on a day-to-day or game-to-game basis, then I don't know what does. Also, might even be denying a clear goal-scoring opportunity. Then again, it's Rasmus Højlund in front of goal, so probably not. This man doesn't need any level of more handicapping, all right? Just give him a chance. Let him have the pen. And whilst we're on the topic of fouls or red cards that weren't given, João Pedro's elbow. Guys, come on. He's led in with the pointy bit, fam. There's nothing humorous about this. This is no funny bone behavior. It's a red card. Get him off the field. Ah, I've got a dead leg. Fucking hell. This is what my chair does to me. It's actually a medical emergency. Reckon I might need a new chair, you know. Now that we're going to leave fouls for a second, and we're going to jump onto offsides, because some of these have even been a little bit crazy too. Even despite semi-autoed offsides being introduced in the Premier League, and of course them already being used when it comes to international competitions. First of all, though, we've got the world's first ever Braille VAR decision. I can only imagine that was what was being used between Azerbaijan and Sweden when Alexander Isak was given as offside for this. Genuinely, I wouldn't have been surprised if I saw a guide dog wander out of the VAR room. Meanwhile, instead, over in Spain, maybe a little bit too much looking is being done, because Jules Koundé had a goal disallowed against Real Betis for being this offside. Look, I'm sorry, all right? I don't care what anyone says. VAR being brought in for offsides, the reason for that was not to give offsides like this. You can't even see the part of his toe that's offside on the horizontal view, because it doesn't even come out the other end of the white line. That is 3 pixels on the alternate angle. It's just not offside. I don't care what anyone says. There should be a level of reasonable doubt. It's just poor overall. Like, what are we doing here? And there is that element of doubt in the Premier League. This wouldn't have been given in the Prem, because they do have like a little margin zone where you are technically allowed to be offside, like by a couple of centimeters, for example. If Jules Koundé wears normal clothes, this isn't given, and that's crazy to me. A similar thing also happened for his Barcelona teammate, and that was Robert Lewandowski. A slightly bigger margin. You can at least see the end of his boot here. The guy was clearly too busy filming another TikTok to stay on side. And proof, kids, to make sure you clip your toenails, innit? And don't make TikToks like this guy, so that's probably the reason why it was given. Meanwhile, Barcelona were the recipients of some luck when it comes to VAR, in my opinion, especially when it comes to offsides, and that was in the Champions League very recently, in their humdinger of a game versus Inter Milan. It ended 3-3. It could have been 4-3, though, to Inter, with Henrik Mkhitaryan having a goal disallowed late on. And the difference here, I mean, clearly he swapped shoes with Robert Lewandowski for the day, because if he was a size 7, it's not given. I just don't think when people were introducing VAR, coming up with the concept and thinking this is a stereotypical goal we're gonna disallow because of VAR, this was not the goal. It doesn't even feel like it can be accurately measured because of the angles that they're using. I mean, for the frame that they use, the ball is literally extended out because it's in the middle of a frame. The ball's been kicked between frames. You know what, I'm not gonna lie, I think they just couldn't be asked to type his name out for the goal graphics. They just said, let's just cancel that one out. Back in the Premier League, there was a disgraceful offside given against Southampton and Adam Armstrong. They faced off against Brighton. A ball was crossed into the box. Adam Armstrong didn't even go for it, and it was turned in by a separate Southampton attacker. The goal was ruled out that was offside because Adam Armstrong was seen to be interfering with the play. Him just existing meant that Bart Verbruggen, in between the sticks for Brighton, made the decision not to come out. Now, I'm not being funny here, but as far as I'm aware, VAR officials don't have mind-reading capabilities. They shouldn't be making an offside decision based on what they think a goalkeeper might have done if a player wasn't there. That is ridiculous. Interfering with play is you going for the ball or you blocking the goalkeeper's vision. It's not you being in the position on the pitch that you were supposed to be in the first place and the ball passes you by. I think they were given an apology for this one. Southampton made it the thumbnail for their highlights just to highlight themselves how much of a ridiculous decision it was. But yeah, overall, not entirely sure what anybody was thinking for that one. But maybe we should count our blessings, because when VAR wasn't used, used in the FA Cup between Manchester United and Leicester, Harry Maguire scored a quite clearly and obviously offside goal from a set piece against his former side. To be honest, I think being a linesman might be one of the hardest jobs in football. I think it's probably a harder job than being a referee, if that makes sense. You've got to have your eyes split between two separate things, right? You've got to be looking at when the ball's kicked, or know exactly the moment the ball's kicked, and obviously be looking across the line to know when someone's offside. There are 3 people that are offside here, and they are very clearly offside. This is about as easy as it gets, and you are firmly in line with it. But it is nice to see that officials are just organically bad as well in the wild, as well as bad with technology. There's been some soft decisions given and some that haven't been. Matthijs de Ligt was really unlucky to have a penalty given against him on Danny Ings for a foul earlier in the season. That received a PGMOL apology for Manchester United. Meanwhile, Jarell Quansah was very unlucky not to receive a red card against Southampton for his foul on Matheus Fernandes, clearly dreaming about somebody's Snapchat score instead of thinking about defending. Diogo Jota performed an act of diving that would have been seen as offensive in the Olympics and was still given a penalty for it. He could be seen practicing firmly before kickoff. Meanwhile, Jose Mourinho, unhappy with refereeing that was going on in Turkey whilst manager for Fenerbahce at the moment, decided to leave his own version of VAR on a laptop available for the TV cameras to film and got himself in trouble with the Turkish FA for it. A middle-aged Portuguese man has done a better job of providing VAR to the masses than an entire football federation has. Just let that sink in for a second.
I think I'm a special one.
Meanwhile, spare a thought for Hungary. Their national team was facing off against the Netherlands earlier on in this season when concern, almost tragedy, struck. One of their coaches collapsing in the technical area and needing medical assistance, thankfully making a full recovery, but at the time there was a little bit of confusion and obviously, concern as to his condition and what would happen. A lot of these, obviously the coaches, the players, they work with these guys during international breaks extensively. They're not just colleagues, they're friends. Who could even possibly know what mindset some of these players were in when they had to return to the field of play to continue the rest of the match, having seen one of their friends collapse right in front of them? Well, the VAR officials didn't give a fuck about any of that, because as soon as the players came back out, they decided to go back to VAR, give a penalty to the Netherlands for Wout Weghorst to score and celebrate in front of everybody. Come on, guys, can we not just give them a break here? Bro's got a quarter of a pulse, and we're giving the other team a penalty. This is insane. So there needs to be an ethical element added to VAR, in my opinion. But what's interesting, you got controversy constantly with VAR. It's just always a talking point, and I'm so bored. You've got players walking off the pitch in Bosnia because of bad decisions, Norwegian fans protesting it entirely and wanting to get it banned, Sweden refusing to use it entirely, and whilst there are some decisions that I look at and I'm like, I'm glad VAR exists, there are so many situations where it's so painfully obvious it could be done in a much better way, and I think I've always been a firm believer that it's the people that are the problem, especially in the Premier League. But honestly, at this point, I'm not even sure if it can be saved. I want to know what you guys think. Would you scrap VAR? Because at this point, it's nice to get some of the decisions right, but you're taking away some of the joy of scoring a goal because you don't know whether you've actually scored or not. It might go to VAR, so you can't celebrate as hard, and we're still getting bad VAR decisions as well on top of that, so it's not even feeling like it's worthwhile. But those are my views on the situation. Let me know what you think down below. As I said, make sure to slap a like on the video if you did enjoy. 750,000 subscribers, and I will be testing out my knee again. You can also follow me on social media. It is at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.